Yesterday, I was eagerly anticipating the BBC's Question Time programme, and it did not disappoint. Nigel Farage took the stage, engaging in discussions on a range of current issues, including Labour's revival under Starmer's leadership. As is typical for this show, heated debates ensued, particularly between Farage and Alistair Campbell. The tension was palpable. In today's video, we'll delve into this episode, reacting to every statement and covering the latest news from across the country. Farage and Campbell had a fierce verbal showdown, with Farage boldly labeling Campbell as the greatest loser in history. Be sure to catch this thrilling moment.
The slow realisation that Brexit was a terrible mistake continues.
We're regulating our own businesses even more than they were as EU members. Brexit has failed.
I'm sure that my memory is not deceiving me, but didn't he once say this?
If Brexit is a disaster, I will go and live abroad. I'll go and live somewhere else.
It's a shame, of course, that we're not in the European Union anymore, because then there'd be 27 countries to which he could move more or less freely.
By voting in a referendum for Britain's exit from the European Union, the citizens of the kingdom expressed their desire to reclaim control over their country despite the threats from the international community. Nigel Farage remarked, "My God, who would have thought? The threats and warnings from the international community have not deterred the British people from saying that's enough. We want to take back control of our country, our democracy, and our lives." In response to questions, he deemed it unacceptable for the UK to pay fees and allow freedom of movement for the sake of trade with Europe, as Norway and Switzerland do. If things unfold in the worst possible way and we can't reach an agreement, then having no deal is far better for us than the undesirable situation we currently face. This is also quite detrimental for the EU, he added.
Has the time not come, Prime Minister, to prescribe what is so obviously a terrorist organisation, and in doing so, not just do the right thing, but maybe mend some fences between this government and the incoming presidency of Donald Trump's, given that the whole of his cabinet have been so rude about him over the last few years?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see the honourable member making a rare appearance back here in Britain. He spent so much time in America recently. I was half expecting to see him on the immigration statistics when we see the next batch. But he may have missed. I did congratulate the incoming president.
You have long advocated for the UK to exit the EU, and now the moment has arrived, the day of the referendum. How do you evaluate the chances that those in favour of leaving the European Union will prevail? He expressed that the odds are quite favourable, indeed very favourable. Public opinion polls have never shown us such a significant lead before. We are now at the final stretch, which is shaped by the thoughts of the populace. It feels like a powerful current, energizing the entire United Kingdom, transcending political parties, generations, and social classes. Politicians have deceived the public about the European Union and the euro to such an extent that they have lost credibility. You often criticize migrants, yet many have been part of Britain for a long time. What concerns you about the current influx of migrants from Africa and the Middle East? The first-generation migrants sought to integrate into our society and were relatively few in number. In contrast, today's new arrivals seem less interested in being accepted and more focused on finding a better social and economic situation. They are drawn to higher wages, better social benefits, improved housing, and superior education. Their intent appears to be more about taking advantage of existing resources rather than contributing to the common good. They should strive to build these opportunities in their own countries instead of taking from the British, who have worked for centuries to achieve prosperity in their homeland.
I was disappointed Keir didn't mention Brexit, because I think Brexit has done so much damage to this country. Well, I'm sorry, Neil. I'm sorry. Nigel doesn't want to accept.
You are the worst loser in history, Alistair.
No.
Get over it. It's 8 years ago.
Nigel,
move on.
No, you won.
It's done.
You're the worst winner.
It's done.
Because you've never taken responsibility for what you've won.
It's done. No, we're independent. We're free, and we're not part of that eurozone that's collapsing around its ears.
No, I'll tell you what you are,
Rejoice.
Nigel.
We're out.
I'll tell you what you
we're
are.
free.
I'll tell you what you are. You're somebody, and we've seen it already tonight. You're somebody who will exploit any problem going for your own political ends. Brexit was a fundamentally damaging thing to this country. That is your one legacy, and you now don't even want to talk about it because even you
I want to talk about it.
know that it has damaged this country. It's made us poorer, it's made us weaker, and it's hit our standing in the world.
Farage also stated that Labour has long neglected British workers in favour of focusing solely on migrants, who he views as a more significant electoral asset for them. I am frustrated with the European Union because it intrudes into every aspect of our lives. Corbyn has criticised the EU, arguing that it does not engage enough in our daily affairs. He feels that the EU is insufficient and desires more from it. He envisions a borderless space where migrants can freely move, live wherever they choose, and associate with whomever they wish. That is what he seeks. I oppose the EU because it leads to the erosion of borders, while he criticises for not having completely eliminated them.
I got called with the Speaker to ask a question in PMQs. Well, the Prime Minister was not going to answer my direct question in any way at all, and all those Labour MPs screaming and shouting at me, gosh, it felt like being back in the European Parliament. I really rather enjoyed it. But the serious point, of course, and he's right, that with a population that has exploded over the course of the last few years, the previous government did not build enough prison places. But the whole question of early release, I mean, what is the point of a sentence if people are let out after only serving 40% of it? One of the people released from one of the northern prisons yesterday had, wait for it, 109 previous convictions. So that person, I would say, is...
In other news, Keir Starmer has encountered a strong backlash from civil servants' unions following his pointed criticism of Whitehall culture in a speech at Pinewood Studios. The Prime Minister stirred controversy in his attempt to regain lost ground by stating that many in Whitehall have grown too comfortable in the warm bath of controlled decline. His remarks angered trade union leaders representing civil service workers who felt insulted and betrayed. He referenced Kennedy's famous quote, stressing that change is pursued not because it is easy, but because it is challenging. The Labour leader lamented that officials are overly cautious, fail to propose bold ideas, and only set easily attainable goals. Dave Penman, the leader of the FDA union, accusing Starmer of betraying the trust of government employees. He also criticised Starmer's rhetoric, remarking, "We've been getting accustomed to this Trumpian language for 5 months now."
Wow. Now just give me a second. Just give me a second. Do you like them? Very expensive. But guess what? I bought them myself. How about that?
Penman expressed his frustration, stating that Starmer could have highlighted the exceptional work of the civil service instead of merely criticizing its flaws. Steve Thomas, Deputy General Secretary of the Prospect Union, emphasized with genuine enthusiasm that while reforms might be necessary, civil service unions have long been willing to collaborate constructively with the government. He urged a strong response to the unchecked reduction in the number of civil servants and proposed reforms to the wage system to ensure it can compete effectively with the private sector. In reply, Starmer, in his policy document, firmly committed to significant cultural changes, rejecting an outdated mindset that he believes obstructs progress. Kami Badenoch, the leader of the Conservative Party, reacted with clear discontent to Starmer's speech, labeling it as indicative of the Labour Party's serious shortcomings. She characterized his address as a desperate attempt to revitalise his premiership and expressed skepticism about Labour's readiness to govern if they were to win the general election in July. What are your thoughts on this video? Feel free to share in the comments, and see you later.